Gospel Life message for today is titled, Abundance for Everyone. Abundance for everyone. Now, throughout the ages, the intelligence of God has revealed to people that the world in which we live contains an abundance for all, enough to share and to spare. And in our seeking our good, we shall find ourselves experiencing not only the love of God, but also the law of God with absolute certainty. This relationship of love and law is universal and changeless. The law, in effect, is gifted from the love inherent in the nature of God's intelligence and the nature of our Creator. Without law, mankind would be powerless to choose and realize those choices in our experience. Yet the use of this power requires our mind to be open to the infinite, to the great unseen intelligence that must work through us in order to work for us. I mean, can we imagine if the world was not in balance with law? You know, gravity is a law. Mathematics is a law. All these things are laws, physical laws. Can you imagine if we couldn't depend on gravity, if we couldn't depend on the fact that we can inhale and exhale, that we couldn't depend on the law of mathematics to understand the quantities and quantifications of life? So we know that law is a gift too from God, from the love of God, from the love of our Creator, because law makes everything universal and available to everyone in the same exact way. The law of gravity works for everyone, just like the laws of God work for everyone in the same exact way in all things. Let's look at these words from Discover the Power Within You, a book written by the great Eric Butterworth. He writes, the law is, it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. It is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. He's taking that from the Gospel of Luke 12:32. God is all sufficiency, your instant, constant, and abundant supply. But you will experience only that which you can take into your consciousness. Thus, any limitation must be a limitation in thought, in the faith that shapes the substance. Light streaming through a window will always assume the shape and color of the aperture through which it comes. The wealth of the universe will be yours to the degree that you see it and see yourself using it. That you see it and see yourself using it. Now this is a very important thing for us to understand, because the key to this wisdom from Eric Butterworth, who's one of the great teachers and authors of the Unity Movement, lies in the words, yours to the degree that you see it and see yourself using it. It is in using our gift of imagination to see that which is ours, even though it yet may be invisible, and our ability to make it personal to us by seeing ourselves using it or experiencing it, because that's what triggers the law to perform the unformed energy that draws to us all the conditions and resources necessary to receive the greater good that we choose for ourselves. And these two definite steps of prayer treatment can be used to increase our wealth, our health, and to draw into our experience loving relationships and even marriage. As we see ourselves using and experiencing what we desire, we begin to accept it as the truth for us and begin to expect it. And we must remember, we don't get what we want, we get what we expect. So what are we expecting? So Eric Butterworth has given us just another rephrasing of those words of the Mastermind Jesus. Jesus said, it's done unto you as you believe. And so as we believe that on the great invisible side of life is where all things are resonant and where all things are formed and come into being, we know that we can keep faith, because even the mundane things of our everyday life show us that this is the truth. Just think about these smartphones and cell phones. These were ideas on the unseen side of life before they were put together into something that we could use. Back in the days of Alexander Graham Bell, when he invented that crude telephone, even then, everything necessary to build the smartphone of today that will send pictures and texts and voices all the way across the globe in an instant. All that, everything necessary was available, except the idea had not become aware, and to the mind of mankind, the idea had not become into man's awareness, because mankind wasn't ready for it. Mankind wasn't ready for it. It was there, it was available, but mankind wasn't ready for it yet. Just as we may not be ready for that greater thing still that we desire, but we can prepare our mind to be ready and provide the readiness in our consciousness to receive it and to have it and to realize it for ourselves. So yours to the degree that you see it and see yourself using it, knowing that this is a gift of the imagination to see that which is ours. And as we see ourselves using, experiencing what we desire, we begin to accept it as the truth for us. And we know that God responds to us by corresponding through the law of correspondence, corresponding to that which we believe to be true for us. And we must remember this. Whatever it is that we're thinking, whatever it is that we're believing, whatever it is that we're accepting for ourselves, whatever our thoughts are generating in our mind, let's see ourselves having, doing, and being, see ourselves using the things that we desire, experiencing the things that we desire, until our mind is convinced and has that deep conviction that there's no obstructions between us and those good things, and so therefore those things come into our experience. Let's look at some more from the great Eric Butterworth, and this is from his book, The Universe is Calling. The Universe is Calling. Now, you can buy his books on barnesandnoble.com or Amazon.com. The books we're using today are Discover the Power Within You and The Universe is Calling. Both are excellent books, and both have so much inspiration in them to guide us and direct us towards that way in which we can find ourselves manifesting the good that we desire for ourselves. Remember, we have to all find our way. The way to wonderful life isn't the same way for everyone. We all have to find our own unique way of communing with the Spirit, communing with God in prayer, communing with God in contemplation, communing with God in acceptance and deserving and asking and claiming and seeking and finding. We all have to find our own way. And so these wonderful books by Eric Butterworth and all these great teachers who authored books that help us, who give us a little assistance in opening our mind to that greater, they're just pointing us in a direction that we have to find our own unique way. And we can find it, and it may be very similar to some of the things we learn from these people, from these great teachers, but it will still be unique to us. So he's telling us, and the universe is calling, he says, let me repeat, you do not pray to God, but from a consciousness of God. Think about this. Get it into your awareness. So whenever you have something to pray about, before you start looking up and reaching out, pause for a moment and remember, first get the awareness of oneness as a mighty potential of life and substance and intelligence within you. Then set about spiritedly to pray from that awareness. You may have thought that you were only praying when you said, now I am going to start praying. No matter what you call it, your thought concerning any subject is a prayer treatment. Your thought concerning any subject is a prayer treatment. What does he mean by treatment? He means it starts drawing that thing into our life, whatever it may be, whether it's of a positive nature or a negative nature. So a treatment means that every time we think about something in a positive way, every time we give a good energy, a loving energy, energy of an open mind that's receptive and deserving and expecting greater good in our life, we start drawing things to us. So we treat that thing, we do a treatment to it to draw it into our life experience and let the formless become form, and all the energy that draws us to the people, places, and things necessary for us to experience our good start coming into play in our life. So in these words, Eric Butterworth gives us several important points to know, to pray from a consciousness of God and to do so from an awareness of oneness, and a oneness with the intelligence and the power and the Spirit of God, and to know that our thoughts about a thing is our prayer. And so to change the thing, we must first change the thought about it. So what does he mean from a consciousness of God? And that means to think. What is How does God see you? How does God see you in the situation that you want to be in? How does God see you using those things that you desire to have? What is the intention of your heart? Is it the intention just to have them for selfish means or to gain superiority over someone? Because if that's the case, then you can pray for it, and you may even get it, but you'll get a whole lot of trouble with it. So everything of the nature of God, when we pray from the consciousness of God, we pray that this thing for me and for anyone that wants this same thing or similar thing, pray that they have it, that I have it, that we all have it, that God has prepared it for each and every one of us, and we can all accept it to the degree that we can take it into our consciousness and realize it's for us. As Eric Butterworth said in those previous words in his other book, the wealth of the universe will be yours to the degree that you see it and see yourself using it, and also realizing that there's an abundance for everyone. There's no lack, there's no limitation. The only lack or limitation is created in the mind of mankind. There is no lack or limitation in God. There is no lack or limitation in the mind of God and the love of God. And the law of God is universal. It's for everyone. It's changeless and immutable. So as we use the law, knowing that we're using it for the good for all, not just for ourselves, but whatever good it is that we seek will also bring about a good for someone else. And we talk about that all the time. If I go out and buy a brand new BMW X5 today, not only am I getting something that I will enjoy, but I'm also prospering that dealership, that BMW salesman, those people that build the BMWs, those people that build the BMW tires, the engine, the motors, the technology, the radio, the stereo, the CD changer, all those things. So I'm letting that divine circulation move through me out into the universe. And so as I accept more of the abundance that's available for everyone, then I create a more abundant life for all those around me, and I do it with a great joy. And you will too. Let's look at some words from Paramahansa Yogananda, the founder of the Self-Realization Fellowship. He gives us some sage wisdom on how we can prepare our consciousness to receive. He writes, every day do some good to help others, even if it is only a pittance. If you want to love God, you must love people, for they are his children. You can be helpful materially by giving to the needy, and mentally by giving comfort to the sorrowful, courage to the fearful, divine friendship and moral support to the weak. You also sow seeds of goodness when you interest others in God and cultivate in them greater love for God and a deeper faith in God. Now he is framing this from the wisdom, he is framing this wisdom from his frame of reference. For example, he's using masculine pronouns in reference to God. We know that God is spirit, that God is not a he or a him, but whatever words make us comfortable and whatever words make us feel more connected, just as Jesus used the term Father, but he tells us the Father is spirit. He used that term because that made him feel connected and made him feel more of the nature of God, because we know that we're all of the nature of whatever it is that we have offspring from. We must find our own words that bring us that greater feeling of being connected. The wisdom of this teaching is that we must love people if we want to love God. Not only ensures that we will have better relationships with all those we come into contact with, but our mind will be more free from the debris of negativity and judgment and open to the abundance that is ours to receive. So we know that as we open our mind to realize that everyone is part of God, and so therefore everyone is of the same nature that we are, of the same image that we are. We are all created in the image, likeness of the supreme intelligence, power, and spirit that gave us all life. There's only one life. That life is God. That life lives in every living thing. So we know that whenever we feel that truth about someone else, and we look beyond anything that may deny that truth in them, and realize that it's there, that the love of God, the spirit of God, the intelligence of God, and the power of God is all within, waiting to be awakened and waiting to come to the surface of the person's mind so that they can enjoy this thing called life in a greater way. 2, we know that it enlivens our own consciousness and enlivens our own mind. It creates a greater and deeper faith within our own mind and heart and soul that will give us the opportunity to realize and to actualize the good things that we desire to experience. Let's look at some more wisdom from Eric Butterworth, Discover the Power Within You. Discover the power within you. He tells us the intellect of mankind, the skeptical part of our nature and mind, stands in the way. We say, after all, you must be practical. If 5,000 people are sitting on a hillside out in the country and all they have on hand is 5 small loaves and 2 fishes, those people are just not going to be fed. But they were fed. When Alexander Graham Bell had his telephone demonstration all set up, there were many skeptics who jeered and said, when you have someone 100 miles away hooked up with that little small wire, you may talk all you want into that little black box, but they just won't hear you. But they did hear. And millions of times a day, the same sort of hearing goes on around the world in the sophisticated telephones that have evolved from that first simple prototype. Again, let us say, don't get lost in the mechanics. The miracle is the abundance of God in terms of ideas, in terms of ways where there seems to be no way. It really doesn't matter how the multitudes were fed. All that counts is that the supply was manifest when it was needed, where it was needed, and in the amount in which it was needed. And that's how we must look at the things that concern us in our own life. Don't get caught up in thinking about how it's going to happen or where it's going to come from. Don't get caught up in the details, but see yourself having it, using it, being it, doing it, and the ideas to bring you into that realization, into that experience will come to you. They will guide you and direct you to that which is yours to have, to do, or to be in the most wonderful way. But we have to trust in the intelligence and the power of God. This intelligence is all around us. Think about the law of gravity, not just as a law of gravity, but a law that is part of the intelligence of our Creator, because this law is universal. It works the same for everyone. We can depend on it because we know that it's going to work for us the same way it works for everyone else. So start thinking about the intelligence. Think about the rotation of the earth. You know, people used to think that the earth was flat. The earth was flat, and they absolutely believed it was flat. And even when people came forth and said, no, we discovered that it's not flat, even the religious of the day were out to punish them and out to call them heretics and all manner of things because they hadn't yet come to that realization of that greater intelligence that reflected the discovery that the earth was not flat. So we know we're not here to please the people. We're here to realize whatever it is that's going through our heart, our mind, and our soul as a good desire, because every good desire comes to us. You know, that desire, that you break it down, D means of, sire means father, it's of the Father, it's of the Spirit, of the intelligence, of the power that created us and created all that we see. So we take that into our mind and we realize once and for all that we're a part of that intelligence. Just as the rotation of the earth is part of that intelligence, the gravity is part of that intelligence, the beating of our heart, the seeing through our eyes, the hearing through our ears, the breathing through our lungs is just a part of that intelligence. And let's always remind ourselves, the law is. This is a law. This is not just a phrase that would make us feel good. This is not just a feel-good statement. It's a law. The law is, it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. That's from the Gospel of Luke 12:32. But we must remind ourselves that God is all sufficiency, our instant, constant, and abundant supply. But we will only experience that which we can take into our consciousness. Thus, any limitation must be a limitation in our thought in the faith that shapes the substance, and just remind ourselves that the wealth of the universe will be ours to the degree that we see it and see ourselves using it. So let's put that divine imagination to work. Let our mind be still. Let our mind feel the presence, the power, the Spirit of God. Feel ourselves in the embrace of this warm, loving presence that's always seeking to realize a greater thing still through you and me and through everyone, and start feeling that oneness. Jesus said, I and the Father are one. I and the Father. If you see me, you see the Father. Why? You see the image, the likeness, the spirit of power, of intelligence. You see it. Believe that. Accept that. See yourself as God sees you, as God's offspring, as an expression of God, as an instrument of God's intelligence, God's power, God's spirit, God's love. And just begin to realize how fortunate we are to have that intelligence, to realize that, and to understand that all that God is available to us. All the intelligence, all the power, all the spirit, all the joyful energy that will make us feel alive and feel that vitality as it surges through our mind, our heart, and our soul, and even our physical body, all that is ours to experience. But we must begin to accept it in a greater way. We must begin to realize it for ourselves in a greater way. So once again, let's look at these words from the great Eric Butterworth. We're going to end our program with these words. The intellect of mankind, the skeptical part of our nature, and stands in the way. We say, after all, you must be practical. If 5,000 people are sitting on a hillside out in the country and all they have on hand is 5 small loaves and 2 fishes, those people are just not going to be fed, but they were fed. When Alexander Graham Bell had his telephone demonstration all set up, there were many skeptics who jeered and said, when you have someone 100 miles away hooked up with only a small wire, you may talk all you want into that little black box, but they just won't hear you, but they did hear. And millions of times a day, the same sort of hearing goes on around the world in the sophisticated telephones that have evolved from that first simple prototype. Again, let us say, don't get lost in the mechanics. Don't get lost in the details. The miracle is the abundance of God in terms of ideas, in terms of ways where there seems to be no way. It really doesn't matter how the multitudes were fed. All that counts is that the supply was manifest when it was needed, where it was needed, and in the amounts in which it was needed. And so it is. Amen. And so